Hello, everybody. How's it going? Today, I'm going to be on Chillin' with Doa. We should give this a name. It's going to be Chillin' with Doa. It's like Chillin' with Bob Ross, only it's more of a Warhammer thing. What's up, Yar Priest? So today, we're going to be painting the lovely... What's his name? It's a Gottfried dude or something like that. Hold on. Let me find it. This model's name is Gotret de Montbard. He is a Crusader who has the keyword Adepta Sororitas, so he can actually go in a Battle Sisters kill team. And so I'm painting him up to go in my kill team. Should be a lot of fun. He's got, if we look at his data card real quick here. Ooh, hold on. This is not working as well as I thought. Ah, there you go. 4 attacks. That's a lot, which is crazy. He's got a 3-up invuln save. Look at that. And hits explode into 2 hits. So, and he's always a combat specialist, but doesn't take up this combat specialist slot in your kill team. So, he is super good. There he is, getting really nice and close. Look at that. Yep. So he's awesome. And the fact that you can bring him in a kill team, Sisters kill team, is pretty crazy. Because the Sisters don't get like a lot of options on their own. Oh, thanks for the sub, Sturmworm. Appreciate it. So normally, like, here's the general idea. This is not a finished model, by the way, but this is sort of like a general idea for the color scheme for my kill team for Sisters of Battle. You can see the lines are a little bit messy yet because I haven't finished this. The back isn't done really at all. The back cloak, anyway. Yeah, thanks for the sub. I'm going for kind of really dark metal armor with this. So kind of my own take on the, Valorous Heart color scheme. But yeah, this is a general idea of how the Battle Sisters are going to look in the kill team. But this is your average Sister of Battle. Then you've got really awesome models. None of these are finished yet. Like this one with the Simulacrum, that's going to be really fun to paint. And then I've got a couple special models. You've got a Sister Repentia, who is tough to see. There we go. Get rid of that light for the second. Not much armor, but she's got a giant chainsword, which is very cool. Just kind of runs in and hits things. So she'll be another combat specialist. And then we've got Pius Vorn, who's another battle sister, but has this big chainsaw flamer thing. So that'll be fun to paint later as well. Prime that one silver. But today, we're going to paint Gottfried de Montbard. I think I got the name right. And he's not a sister. He's a brother. But he is a Crusader, so he fits into the whole Adepta Sororitas thing because of the Adepta Ministorum and, you know, all the lore and all that. So I think the first thing I'm going to do with this guy, I've primed him silver because he's got a lot of metal armor that I think we're going to keep. But the cloak needs to be black. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is paint the cloak black because I want to kind of make his trimming sort of match the Battle Sisters. The one thing I want to make sure I do is save the designs on his cloak because they are very cool. You can kind of see those there. So after I paint that black, I'm going to go in and kind of try to fill all those little details with probably gold, I think is what I'm going to go for. But yeah, going to be a very dark black, I think. So we're going to start with just straight up black. Just a regular old, oh, the cap is backwards. A Baden black. There we go. Yeah. Got to shake the paints a little bit, of course, even if it is a base paint. And I really need new base brushes, honestly. My base brushes are in sorry condition right now. This one is not looking very good. Actually, do I have a better one I can use? Not really, honestly. I've wrecked all of my base brushes. So we'll just use this one. I'm actually going to cut off this one that sticks way out. Don't do this with your brushes, by the way. There. I'm a trained professional. Yeah. It's like pretty warm here in California, actually, today. Also, I'm sitting right by a window, so that doesn't help on the staying cool front. Anyway, so we'll get this started. And yeah, I'm going to try to preserve the silver. It's not a big deal if I end up going over some of the details, as I will be able to paint those again. I intend to do white on the bottom fringe here, so I'm trying to kind of leave that unpainted because it's going to be a little bit easier to go over the silver than it will be to go over the black. So just going to do a first coat. It's going to look kind of messy initially like that, but first coats generally do. That's why you usually end up using the fabled 2 thin coats to get it nice and dark and smooth. So just going to paint the black on. Again, not being too super careful with it right now. See, unfortunately, unlike Warhammer TV, where they can just show you starting to paint something and then it jump cuts to that area being done completely. If you're watching the stream, you have to watch me paint all of it. So enjoy. Hope everyone's having a lovely Valentine's Day, whether or not you are engaged in any sort of romantic celebration. Because even if you're not, celebrating the holiday itself, you can still have a good day. All right. This will look a lot better with 2 coats on it. And adding a little bit of water to the space paint as well, which again does make it a little bit harder to cover the first time, but it's worth it in the end. Yeah, rating for Valentine's Day, awesome. That's great. That's really cool. Is it classic WoW or current WoW or Final Fantasy XIV or what? Move that on camera. The constant battle of keeping the model on camera. It's difficult. The most difficult thing I've ever done. Keeping the model on camera. Current WoW. Oh, okay. Cool. Is it bad that I didn't even think that was an option? It's I kind of stopped playing current WoW because I don't know. I'm just not, the Nyalotha thing just like isn't grabbing me. I'm kind of ready. I'm ready for the next expansion. Let's go. Let's go to the Shadowlands already. I just don't have time either. There's that as well. Is that nicely in focus? Yeah, it's pretty good actually. Good. And as usual, I will begin to hit the camera a lot with my brush. So what would a Chillhammer stream be without that? Anyway, you can see I'm painting over the details in the cloak down at the bottom here, but I'll be able to go in and they are kind of embossed into it, so I'll be able to fill those in with like gold or something really cool later. And his arms are also cloaked as well. So we're going to do a white fringe on the arms and a white fringe on the bottom of the cloak. So I don't need to be super, neat and tidy with the line at the bottom of the cloak. Thankfully, that's more or less embossed too. Weirdly enough, it's embossed here, but it's not embossed on the edge. That's kind of strange. G-dubs, please. But this guy should be a pretty sick looking model when he's done. I'm excited about this one. I'm excited about all of them, honestly. I think the Sisters of Battle have this cool sort of creepy gothicness to them, which, a lot of the Imperium stuff has, but I think the Sisters kind of kick it up another notch. They're dark and creepy and gothic, but there's also like a real element of humor with that faction as well. Like, they've got a tank that's got a giant pipe organ on the back that shoots missiles out of the pipes. I mean, come on, that's funny. That's clearly, like, done with comedy in mind, right? So I like that they include, like, an element of humor with this sort of, like, dark, like, grimdark faction as well, I don't get into some of the stuff in, like, the Sisters of Battle. Like, I don't intend on putting any flagellants in my army because they just creep me out. Sistery Pencha are like the closest I'll go to the whole whips and chains thing in the army. I'm not trying to kink shame the Sisters of Battle. I'm just saying I just don't want to paint those models. All right, so working on putting that second coat of black on. You can see it's starting to look a lot better at this point. Yeah, they're pretty neat. They so the brief lore on the Sisters of Battle is apparently there was this planet where there was this sect of like super highly trained women warriors that were like ultra devoted to the emperor and just like out of control awesome fighters. And there was this era where after the emperor was interred in the golden throne during the Horus heresy, there was an era where there was this dude that was kind of messing everything up in the Imperium. He was leading it, but he was also kind of messing it up. And he managed to convince the sisters that he was, essentially the rightful appointed like divine ruler of the Imperium. So they became his kind of bodyguards. But then eventually, at the end, his corruption was exposed, and they ended up executing him. But where like the Space Marines in Warhammer lore are kind of, there are like genetically engineered super soldiers, basically. From what I've read in the Codex, the 40k Codex with the Sisters of Battle, it seems like they could like theoretically go like toe to toe with one of the, not the Primaris, but one of the regular Space Marines, and like hold their own. Because in the lore, like one of the top like bodyguard sisters fights an Adeptus Custodi, who's like kind of, those guys are like the personal bodyguards of the Emperor and like super buff and all that, super good fighters, and she's able to go toe to toe with him. But they augment their extreme training with like almost divine luck, it seems like. Their belief in the Emperor as a god and all that kind of stuff, which even though he doesn't seem too fond of that, they get this like supernatural luck that seems to come from like divine favor. So it's a really interesting like bit of lore in that they're essentially just like regular humans, but they're just super, super good fighters, and they've got this like divine favor that manifests as like this extreme luck in different situations and stuff. So I think that's neat. It's kind of a neat like bit of lore, Yeah. Yeah, as far as WoW goes, like, I don't know. BFA was up and down for me. I really liked a lot of the lore in it. But I felt like the ending kind of stumbled a bit. And like the ending, the lack of like a real ending cinematic kind of bothered me. And if they've fixed that, or if there's something in Mythic that I don't know about, let me know. But that kind of turned me off a little bit. Looks like I'm going to need to switch to a smaller brush to get some of these front areas, because I'd like to try to avoid hitting the metal if I can. I can always paint over it, but it just kind of saves me a little bit of time. But like these front areas of the cape and like getting in here, yeah, I think I'm going to need to switch to a smaller brush in a minute. Yeah. Is the corruption system messing things up too? Like I haven't raided with the new corruption stuff really at all, so I don't know. If you're new to the stream, kind of get used to this, or I'm going to jump like between lores of different games very abruptly, without warning. Warcraft to Warhammer, and back again, etc. Gonna do this front flap. Apparently this front, the crotch flap thing, this is not a tabard, apparently, technically. I learned this the other day. It's not a tabard, it's known as a scapula. Like the same word as like one of your like shoulder bones. I'm not sure which one. I'm not a doctor, all right? I'm not a doctor. I'm an artist, clearly. But apparently this has the same name. It's a scapula. Yeah, what do you know? Interesting, right? I'm not a doctor. But I play one on the Overwatch League sometimes. Or at least I did. Rip. Maybe Dr. Toho will return in a different game someday. Who knows? It was fun while it lasted, guys. Alright, switching to a smaller brush, going with the medium glaze brush to get some of these details on the edge of the cloak. And I'm using a little bit thicker of a paint. I'm not watering this down quite as much so that I can just kind of hit this once on the edge and just get it, Getting inside the cloak is going to be a little bit tricky. A wiser person, perhaps, would have primed this on the sprue and then painted this before gluing it on. But I'm not like that. I just like to get in there, I just like to build the model, appreciate the sculpt, and appreciate the challenge of painting things in a way that's harder than they should be. Whoa. Isn't it nice that I always have such well-groomed fingers? You don't have to look at like these really hideous fingers that I'm painting. You get to look at like pretty, well, I mean, they're not spectacular, but they're pretty normal, I think. They aren't like scary looking or anything. Oh man, the sword is like so in the way. Who put the sword here? It was me. Alright. Going through now with a smaller brush and just going back here, painting what I can of the cape from behind. Once it all gets like shaded and stuff, you don't end up really noticing it that much, so it isn't the end of the world. But it is more of a challenge than I thought it would be. I didn't really think of this when I put this model together. That's okay though. I know a lot of people, I know a lot of really good painters that don't ever bother doing any sort of like, what do they call it, like sub-assembly painting. They just put it together and paint it however they can. All right, and a little bit more inside there. A lot of times you can't even really notice if you look at the cloak, like it's not really gonna show up. Yeah. All right, I should move the palette so you can kind of see a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I still like Overwatch. Like, you know, I mean, it doesn't need, like, if you stop doing like a league or a game, it doesn't need to be this like contentious split, you know. Sometimes there's a good reason for that, but you know, I prefer to try to keep things amicable between parties, even if I do have disagreements with the way things were, you know, run and stuff, which I did, you know, and that was definitely part of it. But you know, there's a lot more people that I like than don't like at the Overwatch League. And I love the game, and I love what the league is trying to do in the esports space, so I wouldn't want to do anything to try to inhibit that, you know? All right. I'm going to get the side of the cloak here. Keeping it pretty tight next to the leg and all that. They've been doing construction in the apartment right through the wall of my office lately. So you might hear like crazy sounds coming through there, crazy like construction sounds. This guy's rules are actually crazy for kill team. Like having a model, I mean, yeah, he has to get into melee combat, he has 0 shooting, but having a model that has 4 attacks that can possibly chain into more attacks, and he has a 3-up invuln save, and he has like 3 or 4 wounds, I can't remember, is just really, really strong for a kill team. So once he gets in there, it will be very, very difficult for people to dislodge him in combat, and that's going to be like the goal of this guy in my kill team. Because I actually do get into kill team a little bit from a little bit more of a competitive side of things. At least arena anyway, if you're familiar with the different types of kill team. But I won the last kill team arena league we had at my local store here in California with Chaos Demons, actually. And I don't think this kill team is going to be quite as good as those, because those were actually broken. But I think it should be pretty good yet. But yeah, this guy's point is not going to be like to kill dudes. It's going to mostly just be like hold people up in melee and not let them shoot and stuff. Alright, and that is looking pretty good. You can see the black is pretty decent now at this point. I think I'm happy with that. And like a little bit more on the bottom here. When you're doing these base coats, more than having like nice clean lines, you're really just looking for a nice clean layer. Yeah, look at it off camera a little bit here, because that helps sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes when it's under the lights, it's a little bit trickier to see where you've missed a piece. When you're, especially when you're painting on silver, when you base it in silver, that makes it a little bit tricky with the lights here. Yeah. I mean, nothing can kill esports, right? It's like nothing can kill video games. But there are certain things that can definitely hold the industry back. I think it would definitely be bad for the esports industry if Overwatch League, you know, did poorly. But it is what it is, and no matter what happens, ideally people will be, you know, learning from what happened and move on. But no, Overwatch League is not dead, and it's not close to dead, and anyone who says that just doesn't really understand the situation. There are things I would like to see done differently in the Overwatch League, but it's definitely not dead. All right, so how am I going to paint the rest of this? Do I do the shield right now? Maybe I'll wait for the shield. Gauntlets, let's see. Man, he's got so many really cool details. I'm trying to decide like what details I want to be, you know, what color. I think I'm just going to do the armor first. And for the armor, I kind of want to do a little bit of contrast paint. I think I'm going to do that. Or maybe, not with him, I think I'll just go null oil. I don't need to contrast paint everything. So let's go ahead and, honestly, I feel like I can just null oil over the entire model right now. And then add from there. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Null oil is a shade, in case you're unfamiliar with it. Find it here. Yep. So this is essentially like an ink wash that I'm going to put all over it. Let's see. Oh, and I have a device to keep me from spilling it, so I'm going to be right back and find that. I just got this thing because I've spilled a couple pots of paint over the years. So this allows me to put this in here, shake it up and stuff like that, and that's not going to fall over. Yeah. If the internet gets deleted worldwide, that won't kill esports. What are you talking about? Ever been to an arcade? Arcades will just become a thing again. And people do what like I did when I was a kid and just play fighting games against each other. It's going to be awesome. I wouldn't mind that at all. All right, so I wouldn't be able to stream for you guys. That would be the worst part. Let's just put some null oil on everything. It's going to null oil the entire model. Basically what I'm just doing is putting a black ink wash to kind of seek out the recesses and stuff like that. This will help bring out a lot of the lines, help define a lot of the features, and just generally look awesome. I can see the articles now. Esports caster wishes internet didn't exist. Which is not true at all. You know how it goes, though. So the most important part with this step is to make sure that there isn't any sort of pooling that goes on. And that there isn't any big like globs of null oil that end up like just creating these big globs of color. So after I put some on, what I'm doing is going and putting the brush in to sort of draw some of it back into the brush, you know? Yeah, there we go. Cool. And I'll probably do like another layer of this later, because I'm going to add more base layers on there, but this will just be a good start. And help me kind of decide, you know, what I want to keep and what I want to ditch as far as like the different colors of it. On Gotret de Montbard, the Crusader. And just a really cool model. Like, it's kind of like a techno knight, you know? You've heard of techno Viking. This is techno knight. My ancestry is more, you know, the techno Viking kind of ancestry, but I don't play Space Wolves, so I guess I can't really paint those right now. So as you can see, I'm kind of going in and you can see drawing a little bit of this ink wash back onto the brush. So it's not, because I don't want the lines too thick. I just want it shaded. I don't want it like filled in, you know? Yep. So you can see the front of it already is looking a little bit more defined, which is pretty neat. All right, and I'll put it on the hand and the sword here. I'm actually not really going to put it on the sword blade. And the reason is I've got a plan for the sword blade. I'm going to do kind of a power sword effect, which is going to be a little bit, it's always a little bit more challenging, but it's going to be cool. So, totally worth. I want to like lower my chair so that my neck doesn't have to be like so hunched, but if I do that, then my chair won't go back up because it's kind of busted right now. So it's easier to fix my neck than my chair at the moment. Maybe not in like 20 years, but right now I'm okay. And yeah, just putting a little bit more. Some of these areas, drawing a little bit more back out again. It's kind of already starting to dry a bit, as you can see. This will make a good base for like dry brushing and stuff like that. Yeah. I really enjoy painting cloaks too. It's pretty fun. All right. But yeah, I really like the way the front of this is looking right now. Maybe I could put a little bit more non-oil on that detail there. Yeah. Man, this guy looks so cool though, doesn't he? I really love it. I'm going to need to take a few minutes for this to dry, so I might work on something else for a few minutes here. What's up, Bearstruck? How's it going, man? Getting started, Buddha Cookie says, I'm getting started in 40K with sisters and looking for advice on paints, especially for very fair skin. Oh, okay. I'm trying not to buy a billion paints or a small army. That's an intelligent way to approach things. As far as skin goes, I think the best thing to do is prime it a lighter color. Like we'll use, actually, you know, because we have to wait for, this to dry a little bit. So I will show you right now how to do some lighter skin. Let's do it on this Sister Apentia right here. So there's a couple ways you can approach skin, depending on what sort of color you're looking for. And a lot of it is, let's see, there are a few different options that I like to use. Not those, let me find some of these here. All right, Film on Flesh, and just that. Trying to find a couple of the ones. There we go. Okay, so the contrast paints. The nice thing with oh, see you, Nicole. Didn't see you leaving. Right. The nice thing with contrast paints is they do this thing, if you're unfamiliar with them, where they'll sort of they're made of sort of emulsion, I think is the word, of two different chemicals, kind of, where one is heavier and one is lighter. So when you have pigment in something like that and it's drying, it's going to draw more of the color, more of the pigment down to the recesses and take more of it off of the top. So you get sort of a natural shading and highlighting with one paint, which shockingly works. I did not believe this worked when they released it because it sounded too good, but it actually does work. So that's pretty impressive. Thank you for the follow, by the way. Yeah. So you can do the primers as well. That helps. And so if you want to do the zenithal highlighting like that with different primers, this is something you can put over that to sort of emphasize that and do the skin colors. So there's a few different skin colors that are pretty common. You've got Guilliman flesh, which is one of the, I would say, like a little bit more, leans more towards a little bit of a lighter brown kind of. You've got Fire Slayer flesh, which leads sort of towards more of a reddish kind of. You've got Dark Oath flesh, which is probably I would say the best fair skin one to start with. And you may want to kind of mix these depending on the specific skin tone you're going for. I can show you a couple different examples actually on the same model, but I wanted different skin tones. So this guy I wanted to look a little bit almost like undead. So I kind of used like a greenish, whitish kind of thing. Whereas this guy, I wanted to just have a more darker complexion. So this is, what is this? I want to say this is a few layers of Guilliman flesh, if I recall. So you're going to have to apply it multiple times. But as you can see, when it dries, you do get a nice shading, a nice highlighting with that. So for a darker skin tone, and that's the thing, like the darker the skin tone you're looking for, the more layers you add on, basically. And you can always highlight it with a different color later after that. You can always shade it with a darker color to adjust the skin tone. So there's a lot of different things you can do to get really, really nice skin tones. So there's that. And then I'll just show you here. You can do it sort of the old-fashioned way as well. So this is a model I did where I just did a base paint, a shade, and then different sort of, I'm going to shade it here, different sort of, with my hand, different layers of highlights. So this is a manually painted lighter skin tone face. So this is like 3 different paints basically that did that. Whereas this is just one paint added a couple different times and allowed to dry. And I made sure to be very careful about not allowing it to pool and build up and create like weird puddle effects and stuff like that. This is the easy way to do it. This is the way I do it now with all this. With this gentleman here with the darker skin tone, who's one of the guys that does the engineering for one of my Celestar ballistas. So one of the engineers on that. So anyway, it was a little tour of skin tones. I'm not sure which skin tone I'm going to go for with this one. Probably something a little bit on the lighter side. But I'll just put a layer of Dark Oath flesh on it, and we'll check back and I'll show you how it looks in a little bit, if you stick around. Yeah. I don't think Duncan left because of contrast paint. I think he left because he realized he could like make a lot more money being freelance because he's super famous and he's an awesome painter. Can't blame the guy. That's what I would do. So let's see. Siege Esports. Oh yeah, I mean, I've actually started to watch a good amount of Rainbow Six Siege in the tournament that's going right now. I never really watched it before, but I'd kind of heard about it. And I actually had a lot of fun. Like, I sat down to watch, I was just going to watch a few minutes of it over lunch a couple days ago just to check it out. And I ended up sitting there for like an hour and a half and watching like an entire series or two. So I bought the game and I installed it, but I haven't played it yet. And I might do that later tonight. I don't know if I like playing a game on stream for the first time in front of a lot of people. I kind of want to, experiment a little bit. Because when you're doing a game for the first time, it's kind of a lot of reading and stuff too, to sort of catch up. But I do intend to play it on stream at some point and be a noob and get help, Yeah. Yeah, the spectator experience is great. Even though I didn't know a lot about the game initially, and I still don't know a lot about the game, I found it very easy to follow, which is awesome, despite it being a very complex and cool game. So contrast paint, you want to take your shade brush, dip it pretty much all the way in, so you get a nice sort of like range, and then it looks like a ton. I'll take a little bit off. But you literally just go over the skin, and I'm not going to be super clean with this because I'm going to go in and paint the other areas later. But yeah, just hit the skin. Going to do both legs really quick here. Going to paint over some details that I can go back in later and repaint on there, which is fine. And then one of the things you need to do with contrast paint is constantly be going in there, see that right there, and take away the little areas that have a little bit too much paint on them, like this. Just touch the brush to it. You don't need to press the brush into the model or anything. Just touch it really lightly like that and pull some of that color out of there. And let's see, so I'm gonna, a little bit tricky to get this all the way in there, but I should be able to. There. And I'm gonna take a little bit of color out of this little crevice, or not crevice, yeah, kind of like a little crevice around her knee. And right here. So basically, you need to be a little bit careful, and there is a technique with this. The results look very good, and they're very easy, but it does take a little bit of practice to get it right. And the big thing to get right is to be very aware of where the paint starts to kind of pool. That's the main thing. So you want to kind of initially put on more than you really need, right? And then let it move a little bit, and then pull it out of the areas that you don't want it. It's going to just do the face here as well. Going over the hair, I'm not too concerned about that. Get down in there, make sure the neck is done. Let's do a little bit on the hand here. Hands as well. We're waiting for the other model to dry, so this is fine. Taking a little bit of time with that. And now I go, and I hope you can see this, where I'm kind of pulling a little of the paint away from the areas where it's maybe a little bit too dark. You know, one thing you never want to do is push the brush back on an area that you've already painted and smear that around, because then it'll just end up looking bad. All right, there. And what you can do is when you see like a little area that you want to remove paint from, don't touch that area in particular. Touch the bottom of that area, and that will draw the paint down into the brush. Missed a spot on her leg back here, so I'm doing more of that. She's going to be part of my kill team as well, so I'm kind of getting something done that I need to get done anyway. There. And she's a perfect model to show you this because she doesn't have a lot of armor, so there's a lot of skin to demonstrate on. But yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. See, like this area right here. See, there's like a little bit too much, I think, in this little muscle highlight. So I'm just going to touch the brush there and pull it out. Because it's much better to have like less of a highlight and go in and add another layer than it is to let it get too dark initially. But if you look at this leg, it's very light. But if you look at the leg, you can already see some of that shade kind of settling into some of those areas and starting to look pretty good. So this is just one layer of dark oath flesh. I let it pool a little bit too much here, but it's dried enough that if I touch this now underneath the calf, it would not look great. But I'm going to put another layer over it, and that'll fix it. But yeah, you can see this is, I would say this is a pretty average, fair skin tone. So one layer of dark oath flesh generally gets the job done. I would suggest adding 2 layers, making it a little bit darker, and then highlighting over the top of that with a lighter skin tone color. So yeah, there you go. I'm super excited about Rainbow Six Siege though. Like it's been really fun to watch, and I'm excited about learning how to play it. Because I mean, I like FPSs obviously, so yeah. All right, so there you go. There's your quick demonstration of contrast paint, skin tone colors. This one in particular was dark oath flesh. Hope that was helpful. Because yeah, as you can see, very quickly it creates a pretty sick looking skin effect. And you can use this for like any color and anything. I really like contrast paints right now for skin and for like sometimes fabric like leather, I guess. And I really love doing coats of it over metal, which turns out really cool. For example, This is all silver primer and different contrast paints over the top of it. It's an Eldar Wraith Blade. Yeah. So it's blue contrast paint over metal. It's yellow contrast paint over silver. So you can kind of get this really nice, clean, metallic look to it. Very cool. And this is Dark Oath Flesh actually over silver for a little bit of a kind of a bronze effect. Yeah. So there you go. So if you're getting a new set of paints and you've never painted before, contrast paints are probably the way you want to go to buy the least pots of paint for the best looking effect. And it takes practice. Contrast paints take practice, but don't be afraid to mess up, because if it looks terrible, you can always prime over it again, and you're probably not going to really see anything with that. So anyway, going back to Gotret de Montbard, he's looking pretty good now that everything is kind of dried there. You can see the little bit of the red plastic through there. I didn't quite prime it all the way, I guess. But the armor especially is looking a little bit sharper there. Yeah. Do I add anything to the contrast paint for the skin? That was just straight out of the pot right there. I think it's not a bad idea to go 1-for-1 for the contrast medium. And if you're going to go the contrast paint way, definitely get contrast medium. Because a lot of times with the darker contrast paints, you'll want to do like a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 medium to paint and do multiple layers of that to build it up, because that'll look a lot cleaner, it'll look a lot smoother. But with the lighter contrast paint colors, you can do it just right out of the bottle, I think. And with Dark Oath Flesh, that's a light enough one to do that. And one thing to keep in mind too is they look a lot darker than they end up being on the model, remember? Because this is very concentrated here in the bottle on top of it itself. This is just a thin layer on the model. So you can never really tell the proper color from looking at the bottle. You have to really see it on something to get a sense of how it's going to look. Keep that in mind. Yeah, the contrast medium is great though. If you do contrast paint, you must have contrast medium. No choice. All right, so what's the plan going to be here? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and do the white on the bottom of the cloak right now. Let's just do it. So for the white, I'm just going to use, it's so white you can't even read it, Corax white. There you go. Any other layers, highlights? Yeah, you can add regular layer paint on top of contrast paint if you want to highlight some of the muscles and things like that. That's fine. But if you just want to get a model done quickly, you don't really need to worry about that too much. So this is just going to be some Corax white. This is a thicker color. It does go on thickly, so you do want to water it down a little bit, like most base paints. What I'm going to try to do is just get a nice white line on the bottom. And I'm going to hit the base a little bit, but that's okay because I'm going to paint over the base anyway. I just want a nice, clean line on the bottom of his scapula, which is what we discovered this piece of cloth that hangs down on armor is called. It's called scapula. This brush has seen better days too. I'm kind of in the point in time where I need to start replacing some of my brushes again. You kind of go through periods of all your brushes are great, and then it's like, oh man. So there you go. So this is fairly clean. Once I go in and do the details on this, I'm going to fix some of that. And I feel like I should just do a line on the edge of his cloak too. Feel free to spam the Doa Ruined emote if you have it now. I need a brush that's not bent on the end, I think. Let's see. This might work. Yeah. I'm gonna switch to the Artificer layer brush. but I think this will look pretty sick when it's done, you know? There you go. Somebody's got the emote going, that's right. Being a base paint as well, this dries pretty quickly. So using it for these fine applications can be a little bit challenging sometimes. But it does work. All right, so I'm going to get in there. I'm totally going to hit the edge of this chain thing, but I'm going to paint over it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Because, yeah, I think this looks pretty sick. Nice. There. So that's kind of a neat little effect on that. I like it. What do you think? Looks good? I think so. So now we do the same thing on the other parts. And this is a bit of freehanding, so this does get a little bit trickier. Thankfully, some of this is kind of embossed. In retrospect, it's probably not a good idea for the bottom of the cloak to be white in a practical sense, because it's always going to be dragging in the mud and stuff like that. But maybe the lore with this guy is that he's just so meticulous that he has the hem of his cloak white to just show how like hardcore he is about being like squeaky clean, you know? We're developing the lore for this guy as we go, you know? Gottfried Montclean. Crusader Clean. That sounds like a Marvel superhero name, doesn't it? All right, there we go. So that's a really nice clean line on that. Looks good. Neat. I like it. And we're going to do lines on the edge of the cloak as well. Floor Inspector. That's right. You'll find out Crusader Clean. He's Mr. Clean got mixed up with the wrong people and became Crusader Clean. He doesn't like it when people bring that up about his past, but it's part of his past, and he has to confront that, you know. All right, so we're gonna do another fine line around the edge of this cloak here. And this is kind of extreme and unnecessary levels of detail, but that's a nice thing about doing Kill Team because it's a smaller number of models, so you can take a little bit more time on each one. So it is fun. And again, not too worried about hitting the sword because a lot of it's going to get painted over anyway. Make sure to keep your brush clean. You want to make sure to wash it off from time to time to make sure that the bristles aren't going to get too wrecked by doing this. Ooh. I need perfect concentration. And again, yes, this would have been a lot easier if I would have painted it in pieces. But I feel like you don't get the full effect as a viewer that way, you know? How thick do I want this line? Could make it thicker. Kind of do want to make it a little bit thicker so it stands out a bit more. There. There's that. All right. And one more to go. One more arm to go. This is probably the most tedious part of the whole model, I think. And sometimes it feels really tedious to do this kind of stuff, but if you kind of just lose yourself in the intricacy of it and the meditative nature of putting everything you've got into focusing on one little thing, it becomes very calming, which is great in this crazy world we live in. See, Joker should have just like started painting Warhammer models, man. I mean, everything would have worked out. That would have been a boring movie, though. I admit. All right. There we go. There it is. Yeah. Looks pretty even on both sides. I think I'm pretty satisfied with that. Nice. All right. Making sure that this... What I do is I wash the brush and then I make sure the point is a little bit better. Actually, I've got some brush cleaner that I just bought. I should really try this out. Apparently, this is what you do with this brush cleaner. I don't know. You do this as if you were kind of painting it. And then you wash the brush, dry it, and then apparently you put it a little bit more on here and then use it to sort of form the tip. So that seems like it worked okay. Smells great. Smells very clean. I've never used this before. Yeah. It's the Masters, but in quotes, the Masters brush cleaner and preserver. There you go. Oh. And stay hydrated. Of course. But yeah, I like this. All right. So now the fun part. Thanks for the follow, Buddha Cookie. So now let's go ahead and add one of my favorite colors, which is Fulgurite Copper. Very cool. It's a very cool color. And I'm going to figure out where I'm going to add it. I think I'm going to add it, basically all of the armor details I'm going to do in Fulgurite Copper, I believe. That'll be the plan. But the big question is, do I do the shoulders Fulgurite Copper? And I think the answer is probably going to be no. I want him to stay mostly kind of like gray metallic like this. Yeah, for the most part. I'm going to do that. But this is a really cool color. It's this it's a sort of reddish coppery kind of color. I would say Balthazar Gold is darker and more brownish, where this is more orange. It has more of an orange in it. Like here's an example. This is the color I'm about to use. Highlighting this one. So it's a very orangey sort of gold almost. It's copper, you know. Copper is an orangey gold. Brown is a fine color too. You're right. Anyway, so I'm gonna do this, and I think I'm gonna use a pretty tiny brush for that. This is a Connoisseur. Oh, they all have such fancy names. Connoisseur 007 Kolinsky round. You know. And I'm gonna use that. Look at this beautiful color. Wow, that is great. I'm gonna need to shake it more though. It's not quite separated on the bottom, but it's okay. The offspring would be disappointed. And let's work from the kind of the legs up here. I'm gonna put kind of a thin layer on here, and I think this brush is actually a little bit too small for these particular details. So I'm gonna switch from the Monsieur 007 Kolinsky round to the Artificer layer brush. Yeah, let's go with that. Tiny dab of water on it. And just gonna do these armor panel details, the filigree of the armor, if you will, in this Fulgurite Copper. And it looks a lot more orangey to me than it does on a stream right now. I want to add a thinner layer so that when I shade over that again, it'll still be able to pick out a lot of the detail in the recesses. There. So they're going to look a little bit odd because these don't have any shading on them now, even though the other parts of the metal do. But it'll be good. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good as well. Gonna add a lot of that to the shield too. These, usually with the metallic paints, you need to shake them a lot. There needs to be like a paint shaking GIF I need to use for like some like sub thing where I'm like that. Clip that. I'll turn it into a GIF or something. I need like a full screen button. Man, look at this beautiful color though. Oh my gosh. You can't see it. I love it. All right. Now I've got way too much on my brush though. There. All right. More detail. Again, the thinner layer, the better. The metallics can get a little bit soupy sometimes. There. I think I'm actually going to ditch this for a second. If you're worried about your hand shaking while you do this, don't think of it as shaking. Think of it as your hand doing micro adjustments. It's micro adjusting. Need to add a little bit more up here. Yep. It's looking okay. The clip didn't work. Oh, bummer. Now how do I want to add the rest of this on here? To carefully pick out what details to incorporate. There. All right. And then going to do some details on the shoulders up here. All right. And on the other side, all right. Cool. I think I might make the whole back thing here orange. The thumbnail broke? Okay. Cool. I will check it out later. Thank you for your contribution. Switching to a little bit bigger brush. Just going to do this area. So I think this would be cool if it was all copper. I think I'm actually going to do this like little line. So I'm going to kind of flatten out my brush a little bit and then just hit the top crest with this, with the side of the brush. Getting that a little bit darker. Crest kind of ends there, so that's a neat look with that. I like it. All right. Oh, and I kind of need to do these little side areas here. All right, there. All right. What else? Tempted to do the an entire like chest area in that color. Yeah, I think I might. Maybe. I think I should do like half the chest, that color. Nah, I don't think so. I think that's a little bit too much. I know what I will do though. I will add some of it. Add a little bit more of the color onto the palette. Just going to add some around the little pipe areas here. One more layer here. Color a little bit more. There. I'm going to move this back slightly because I've been holding it a little bit closer to me. That's about the right distance. Alright. Yeah, the crest that is on his chest is definitely going to have it. I was just wondering if I want to do like a big area of the chest in this color, but I think it's better as just an accent. And I'm going to hit it with the side because I don't really want this color to go down in this area. So I'm just ever so lightly touching it to preserve the detail. There. I'll do the side of that as well. Okay. Yeah, all right. There. So we've got the crest preserved on there. It looks good. And I'll probably do the skull on the belt as well. This color is called Fulgurite Copper. You can see it there. Yeah. Definitely one of my favorites. It's one of the newer ones. It's one of the newer GW paints, but I like it a lot. Sometimes people like complain about the GW paints to me, and they're like, "Oh, well, all this other stuff is way better," and maybe it is, but I've never had any problems with the Citadel ones, so I'm just gonna kind of keep using them, I guess. There. All right, there's that. Need to do a couple of the details as well. All right. So let's see. I'm gonna do this little doodad down here. All right. I'm kind of tempted to do like even more details, like really go all out with it, but I think I'll give it a little bit of time instead. See what I want to do later, but I'm going to add it around the edge of the shield. Because this guy is going to more or less mimic the color scheme of my Battle Sisters as well. They have darker armor, but he's going to use similar sort of Fulgurite Copper highlights to his stuff. So I'm going to get the outside of the shield first. And then get the outside edges. Feel free to keep asking questions while I paint, and I'll take a look at. I'm trying to take a look at Twitch chat and stay abreast of all the conversation going on. Yeah, that'll be, the little outline around the shield will look really tight when it's done. It'll look pretty sick. The neat thing about like models that have a lot of mechanical aspects to them is that you can get like a lot of really, really clean looking lines without having to try that hard, honestly. So it's kind of one of the benefits of doing this kind of thing. There. So you can kind of see that. I wonder if I like take the light off of it, if you can see that a little bit easier. Maybe you can actually. Can I see it easier though? I can see it okay. It's a little bit easier maybe. Yeah. Good night. Which games am I going to cast? Well, I'm doing League of Legends again next week with Twitch Rivals. And I'm, which I've been doing a lot lately. I'm going to do more Hearthstone at some point this year. Not quite sure when yet. And hopefully more TFT. And hopefully some other ones too. We will see. The future is so full of options. Overwatch League was really fun, but it did take a lot of time. I'm going to do the highlights on this shield area here. Man, the metallic paints dry so fast. You really have to work fast with the metallics, actually. Yeah, adding that little bit of detail around the shield there. Liberating? I guess so. I guess so. I mean, it's kind of it's a good time for it because it's my 10th year of esports casting, and so it's a good time to kind of reevaluate my career and what I want to do, you know, for the next 10 years, and just getting to be part of a lot of different games and trying to, you know, help as many broadcasts as I can is a great benefit. So pretty thankful that I get to do this year. I'm not saying I don't miss Overwatch League, because I definitely do. I miss working with, you know, the people that I like at the Overwatch League and all that, and but this is cool too. All right, let's see. I think that's about good for the shield details on the front anyway. All right. Thank you. Yeah. This is my 10th year. So I haven't finished 10 years, but this is the 10th year that I've been a professional esports caster. Because I started in March of 2011. So 1 through 10, what 2020 is number 10. So So in March 2021, I will have completed 10 years of esports casting, but this is my 10th year. So it feels significant anyway. Trying to figure out what else I want to do with this. I think I would like to add a little bit more Fulgurite Copper on some of these areas. See, I think I'm gonna do, let's see. No. Don't want to do the whole blade. I think I'm gonna do just these little details here. Metallic on metallic, it is a little bit harder to see on stream. All right, and then do some on the sword here. So I think the sword would look really neat if it's got the hilt as part of this. And I will be going over it again with the Nuln Oil to darken a lot of it up. Any plans with what I'm going to do? Yeah, just cast a lot of games right now. Just try to be a part of as many broadcasts as I can and you know, just try to positively influence as many esports as I can this year. And I think reasonably, like 2 or 3 games is a good target. If I do more than that, even 3 might be a little bit too much to handle, you know. But even if I'm not casting something, I want to be involved in like writing and consulting a little bit, which is some of the stuff I'm working on setting up. Because a lot of the segments in like Watchpoint and stuff in the first year of Overwatch League, I had her hand in writing, and I like the idea of doing like comedic writing as well. It's pretty fun. All right, I think it's time to add another color that I'm awfully fond of, which is Grey Knight Steel, which is this color right here. It's a very blue sort of steel. Yeah, the Watchpoint skits were really fun. I really enjoyed those. It's another one of those paints that you really need to shake a lot. So that's what I'm doing. And I might just use this for a highlight color. Possibly. I'm going to try that first because I'm kind of curious about it. But this is a really, really nice blue steel kind of color. The thing I've always felt about esports, the thing I always say is that like the accomplishments of the players should always be treated seriously, but the game itself definitely doesn't need to be, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a video game. It's a little bit silly by nature. It's supposed to be fun, you know. So trying to treat it like the NFL or something just isn't right. It's not esports. So yeah, that's I think that's the theme a lot of people I wish would follow more is respect the players, respect the achievements of the players, but treat it like a video, you know, treat the game like a game, right? Adding a lighter, bluer kind of steel is sort of an accent here. It kind of stands out. I really love this color though, so I kind of try to use it wherever I can. All right. Yeah, more has to be done to bring out the players' stories as well. And it is a challenge, you know, because a lot of these players aren't like big personalities, you know. But that doesn't mean they don't have interesting stories, you know. So I think a lot more could be done to improve that aspect of things, and we tried. There were lots of ideas that were brought up, but not a lot of execution, unfortunately. All right. Yeah, look at it's hard to see, but it's a really nice contrast in person. I tend to paint the models that are tougher to appreciate on stream. I should plan a little bit better. Let's see. I think I'm actually gonna kind of go crazy with this and do like a big block area of this. Yeah. Right, that's another thing too, is that you can't really force something to be an esport. A game can be built to be a good competitive game. I think that should be the primary goal, right? Rather than, is my game an esport? Developers need to think, is my game a good competitive game? Because if it's a good competitive game, then it has a high likelihood of becoming a successful esport, you know? And for the record, I do believe that Overwatch is a good competitive game. I'm changing this silver to this brighter blue Grey Knight steel. For no other reason than I really just like this color. I want to put it on everything. And it adds like a nice contrast. Different types of metal. So you can kind of see the difference between the left shoulder and the right shoulder a little bit. And then I'll go in and shade it later. There. And I might just use this to sort of like highlight his helmet. Let's do this real quick here. There. A better grip. So I'm kind of actively blending this into the darker steel to make the top just look lighter. So I'm using this both as an accent and as a highlight. And I'm going to put a little bit of it right on the chest piece as well. Neat. Some of it down on the knee too. So this is kind of a layering technique, is what you would say, where I'm using this layer of color to enhance the pre-painted and shaded layer underneath it. So you can see I'm kind of just hitting the high edges. I'm giving it a really, really sharp contrast. I love doing details like this because I feel like this is where the metallic nature of it really starts to stand out very nicely. Oops. And then I hit the webcam. See, I'm very specifically hitting the more raised areas of the metal. So you can kind of see how that accents it a little bit more. What do you think? Look good? I think it does. I'm pretty happy with that. Thank you. I love it too. I'm going to put some of that accent here on the shield as well. I'm going to use it though in a way that ideally gives it sort of like the illusion of a mirror sort of finish. Kind of. So it should look like in the end anyway. We will see how that turns out. All right. I think it's time for a little bit of accents of red. Does our work so far? The last thing I'm going to do, it's hard to hold this steady and like shake the paint at the same time. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little, what was I going to say? The power sword effect, I think is the last one I'm going to do. It's hard to think and paint at the same time. All right, so first things first. This is like a little wax seal on his shield. So we're going to do that with red. It's very carefully getting in there. Don't want to hit the metal. But I do want to get all of the area painted. There it is. Yep. And so there's that. I kind of want to do these pipes metal as well, honestly. On the front, I think that would look really neat. I think that would look great. In fact, if or maybe not. Maybe it should be black instead. No, I think we'll go red. It's another little wax seal to do anyway. You do that first. It is really fun to paint these very unique models, because the Crusader is kind of like an old model, I guess, in GW's history and in the Warhammer history. So you don't see many models of this particular part of the lore in the game. In fact, this model is from the Blackstone Fortress board game that is in the Warhammer universe, but they just so happen to have rules for this guy in Kill Team, so I'll be using them. Let's see. There are little details on his little scapula or whatever it is down here too, but I can't really see them. I think what I'm gonna do is, I forgot to add the Grey Knight steel to the chains on the back here. Let me do that real quick. Applying these very carefully. It's kind of on the highlights. There, just to make them stand out a little bit more. And I think I'm going to actually switch over to Retributive Gold. And this is the goldest of all golds, basically. How's the TFT competitive scene going? It's really not going right now because everyone's kind of waiting on Riot to announce their competitive stuff. As they said they were going to, and it's going to come at some point. So I think a lot of pros are just kind of waiting to see what that looks like, or a lot of prospective pros, I should say, are waiting to see what that's going to look like. I think TFT is a fantastic game, and I think it could have like a long, successful competitive history, or future rather. But it's in a little bit of a holding pattern right now. I'm going to do these little details on the cape. Which are going to be a little bit hard to do, but that makes it fun. Actually, I should wait to do these until I do the rest of the cape, which I think I'm going to do right now. So for the black, what I want to do is find a color called, I think I'm going to go Fenrisian Gray with this.
Give yourself to the
It's very light gray. Blackberry Gaming, thanks for the follow, man. I think I'm going to go Dark Reaper first. So I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing here. Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I think there's a lot of tournament organizers that want to, like, get into TFT. But it's a little bit of a daunting prospect when you don't know if the developer is going to come in and, like, blow your scene up, you know? Like, blow your tournament up. Because, you know, unfortunately, there's that history of you know, now we're the only game in town, and everyone that made everything before, well, sorry. And ideally, we'll avoid that with TFT, but we just don't know yet, you know. Doing a little bit of dry brushing here. to bring out some of the details. And if you're curious about what dry brushing is, it is exactly what it sounds like it is. It is taking a nearly dry brush and rubbing it over the high points of the model so that the details begin to stand out. So I'm doing this down near the white but not going onto the white. And over time you can see the details of the cape start to stand out more or less on their own. And I'm going to go in and paint a little bit of that manually as well. I just use GW paints because I go and hang out at the GW store all the time. And they work just fine. Like, I've never had a problem with GW paints. I've always really liked them. So since I'm going to the store and I'm using their tables to play games and I'm using their space to hobby, might as well support them. Some people like really have a thing against GW paints for some reason, but I've always been very happy and satisfied with them. Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people don't think about, is that one of the things I really love about this community is that a lot of it locally is geared around a central local shop, right? Where, we're in this time where a lot of stuff is online, a lot of stuff is, a little bit on the impersonal side. So to be able to go down to my local shop and just like hang out with whoever's there and work on work on models and chill, it's pretty great, Yeah. So I want to support him. Going in and manually adding a little bit of color here on the top. Doing a little bit of dry brushing on some of these details here. Dry brush type thing, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, GW, like, the store is the business, right? Where, like, Magic the Gathering, as far as I'm aware, there's, like, no Magic the Gathering stores, There used to be, like, a long time ago, and maybe there are still somewhere, but Wizards of the Coast stores, where it's all WotC products, but remember there being one in the Mall of America a long time ago in Minnesota? But I haven't seen one of those for a long time, whereas, like, GW, like, Games Workshop is only Warhammer stuff, right? So they can have that kind of community that they support at the local store level. It's really interesting. It's very unique at this time in our gaming history, I think. I think it's really cool, so I want to support it. So that's kind of the long answer to the short question of why do I use Citadel paints, because then I'm supporting my local store. I think they work fine. Maybe there are higher quality paints out there, who knows, but I've never had any issues using this, so I'm just going to stick with it. Gotta be a little bit careful with this part here, because I don't want to hit any of the stuff I've already painted. But I need to do the edge of this cloak. My posture is so bad right now. I'm normally like the kind of person who really pays attention to posture, because I don't want to have like a terrible back, but when I'm painting on stream like this, I gotta do this. Maybe I just need a new chair or a new streaming setup for painting. I'm kind of purposely making the lines a little bit messy because doing that differentiates this surface from the metal. If I do the cloak really, really clean, then how do you know that the texture is different than the metal, right? So if you do the cloak a little bit more on the messier, dry brushy sort of like side, then that helps differentiate it texture-wise, which is important. So I'm blending in some of the lines from earlier here. There. All right, cool. So we got that going. And what I'm going to do next is a dry brush of a lighter color now. A lighter dry brush of a lighter color. Yeah, does he do something like this? I guess you could, but like I don't have a rig that goes up this high. If I had something like this, and I could do it like that, that would be way better. Maybe I can... My chair is so broken though. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah. Hopefully I can like pull it back up again later. So if I do this, scoot in a little bit, then how is that? That's pretty good. That's not bad actually. Nuns the guns, man. Yeah, they well, we're working on a couple of them. This one is getting there. But this guy is actually, he's more like a monk with a gun. Well, he's a Crusader. You get the idea. If I turn off this light, if I turn this away, I can still see things okay. I'll turn away from you guys. There. No, I just needed to be able to see. There, turn it down one step. The stream is a constant work in progress. This is much more comfortable. Ah, it's like the back of my neck, like right here. This is the area, you know, where it's like right at the base of the skull, because you're like this, and these vertebrae right here get like crunched. So, oh, we're learning so much about posture and stuff too. One thing I need to do is a painting contest. I'm going to repaint a Sisters of Battle Chibi Mini, which could be another fun stream. I've got to get it done by next Saturday, so I'll probably do another stream like that. I put sticky tack over the face because I didn't want to repaint the face. And so we'll maybe do this one a different stream. My wife wanted me to paint it to make it look like her, so... What sister order? I'm gonna do so this kill team is gonna also be part of my sister's army, so I'm gonna do a Valorous Heart because they're gonna be part of a battalion detachment that will be that order. All right. So let's see what's next. Oh yeah, that's right. I was gonna dry brush the Fenrisian Ray or Fenrisian Gray rather. Fenrisian Ray. That sounds like a Ray's other last name. That Star Wars movie, guys. I don't know. Well, there's sort of a kill team equivalent for Age of Sigmar. You've got two different options. You've got Warhammer Underworlds, which incorporates an LCG element, and then you've got Warcry, which is probably the closest one.
Give yourself to the rhythm.
Yeah, thanks for the follow, Species. I would say Warcry is probably the closest equivalent to kill team. It's not quite the same. I got a little bit of paint on my brush. Gonna dry it off. And now, a little bit more. Let's see. Get a few details there going. You can see this color a little bit easier on stream. So there you go. And again, the dry brush kind of results in this sort of sandy look a little bit, but that's okay because it's important to have the cloth look different from the armor. So there you go. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. And I'm gonna go and do some actual highlights on there too. Yeah, my store is, I would say, mostly 40K, but the Age of Sigmar stuff is starting to get a lot more popular. I'm mostly an Age of Sigmar player. I mostly prefer the fantasy kind of stuff, but it's catching up. We're making progress. Our little Age of Sigmar community at my store is growing. So I'm gonna just do some like very specific highlights here. Using the same color, but now I'm actually going in and doing it manually for a little bit of an edge highlight. There. Just to give it a little bit more contrast. And I'm going to do the same thing with the edge of this cloak too. If I can get in here. Add a little bit of water to this, because again, the layer paints, anything that's not a shade tends to dry up pretty quickly, so you do have to be kind of diligent with that. There. Okay, a little bit in the back. Not much, but just some. There we go. All right, that's looking pretty good. The model's coming along, I think, pretty nicely. Later, PP me? All right. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like what they did to the world of fantasy, but I didn't really have a big attachment to that world, so it didn't really bother me. I know a lot of people did, though, so respect to them. Maybe a little bit of dry brushing here. Finecast? Oh, that's a Forge World thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's mostly plastic now, unless you get like the Forge World stuff. All right, cool. They're bringing a lot of the old world stuff back, actually, though. Well, I mean, they're bringing the entire old world back in fantasy again, but I mean, they're bringing in the elves again and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. What should the hands be? Should the hands be just flesh? That wouldn't make any sense. Should they be maybe? They look like just hands, don't they? They don't look like there's any gloves or anything on them. I don't know if I like that. What should I do for the blade itself? I think I'm going to do... Let's see. Maybe some Balthazar gold. Let's play around with Balthazar gold. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the hands yet. Might just make them like gloves or something like that. My sister's gloves are white. Alright, so a little bit of Balthazar gold. This is more like a darker brownish kind of gold. Gonna use that for some of the weapon here. And I'm trying to decide if I want to use red for the... Yeah, that's right. I was going to put in some red on the pipes too. So I think it would be good to have like little red accents here and there to kind of play off the other areas. What am I reading right now? I just finished reading the Caradron Overlords book. The new one that came out, Prophet's Ruin, that novel. But I think I might take a break from like reading fantasy stuff and read some nonfiction. Gasp. Doing very tiny details. All right. I'm using the Artificer Layer brush, which is supposed to be like their best brush and all that, but I don't really like it that much. It's too, the bristles are too soft, I think. Is the thing I'm not fond of with that. See you, some guy. Thanks for stopping by, man. I just think it looks cool if these pipes are red, because they contrast pretty nicely with the other red areas on there, you know? All right, so I feel like I should make his hands white, actually. Or at least some sort of off-white, maybe. Feels appropriate that like a Templar would have like white gloves, you know, because you would think he's super like pure and all that, you know. If you can find a lore reason for why you're painting things the way you're painting them, that's really the best way. All right, this brush is probably much too large for this. And don't worry about the shading that we're painting over, because we'll just add more shading. The thing to be careful with here is that we're not filling in the details, because this is a base paint. It is thicker, so you do need to be a little bit cautious when applying it. But already I'm kind of liking this. So again, like, the best way to make your model really pop out is to have the different areas contrast each other, you know. So this white definitely contrasts the metal and everything else, but it also is nice as a match to the accent on the cloak, you know. So when you're painting a model, you kind of want to think, do I like this color, but also, like, will this color stand out? Will people actually notice that I put this color here? Because you have to think about the model as a whole rather than just this particular piece is this color because I like this color, you know. But if you disagree, the Doa Ruined emote is just a sub away. There. Whoa, in the bottoms of the fingers. There. Yeah. So there you go. White gloves. And I'm gonna actually, you know, darken that up, of course, and all that, but it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's also part of it too. It's you have to have a color scheme that you really enjoy painting. It's definitely part of it. I like the idea of like the scabbard of his dagger being white as well. Because the dagger with the white scabbard is how he delivers the last mercy to his enemies. Totally creepy, but adding little elements like that, I think, is really what can make your model stand out compared to somebody else's. Yeah. So of course that's going to get like some shading and stuff like that. Because right now when you paint something white, it's really scary actually. I'm not going to lie, because it is white. You kind of lose a little bit of the detail when the white is on there. It looks unnatural, and you just have to tell yourself, all right, it looks good, but it looks weird right now, but when it gets shaded, when it gets highlighted again, it'll be fine. So yeah. Do heretics deserve a mercy stroke from the dagger? That's an excellent question. That is the question, isn't it? Does the heretic even deserve it? All right, let's see. So this is neat. Back is looking good, I think. And what's next? Guess I can do the little areas of like filigree basically, or little parchment areas. And so for parchment, generally the best color to start with is this color right here, Xandri Dust. Xandri Dust is a base coat, makes for nice like slightly beat up parchment. I don't have an example of it in front of me to show you, but trust me, it does. Xandri Dust is also a good base color for things like skulls. Getting a little bit of paint, not too much, because it's only a little area. I've got pots of paints that I've had for like 2+ years. Like I've been in the hobby for about that long, and that pot of Xandri Dust that I just got paint out of I've had since I started doing Warhammer. So painting this parchment. Because remember, this isn't, it's not part of the metal, it's not part of the shield, it's something that was stuck there. A lot of times in the Imperium, they take what are called Oaths of Moment or something like that, or at least they did back in the Horus Heresy. When, so it's like basically a written out oath, or like a litany to the Emperor or something like that, saying that you're going to fight real hard and you trust the Emperor to protect you. All that good stuff. And I think I'll put it, I'm debating if I want to put it here or not. I think I do. There. I like to think of this as like painted rather than applied, as far as those parts of the shields and stuff. Yep. Yeah, so for the scripting on the scrolls, what I like to do is I have a really tiny fine point black pen. And so after I'm done shading and everything like that, all the scrolls and stuff, I go in with that tiny, tiny little pen, and I just scribble in little ways that look like words. Now, if you want to do actual words on a bigger pen, then you pretty much just need a really, really insanely steady hand. But for little parchments like this, you wouldn't be able to read what was written on them anyway. So little like dots and lines, things that create the illusion of lines of text without actually writing lines of text is what you want to do. So for that, yeah, I really recommend like just a really, really, really fine tip black pen. I'll show you what I use in a second. There's that. I'm really glad I made those hands white. I was really unsure about that, but now that I see it like all together with the model, I'm really psyched. But I'll show you the pen I use. Where is it? Let me see if I can find a couple. I think I've got some here. I should. If I don't know where they went. Yeah, here's there. Alright, I've got to take a bunch of stuff out of here. Hoping I don't have any X-Acto knives in here I don't remember putting in there. Because we're all standing up at one point. There we go. So these are generally what I use. Where is it? Not that. It's just a regular pen. But where is it? These types of things. It's like really, really fine point pens. See, they have like the tiniest little tips, and so that's what I use. I will probably get to that at some point tonight. Actually doing that. Any chance to see me and Monty back at League in the future? Unlikely. Maybe we'll do like another Twitch Rivals or something like that. But I would doubt we'd ever do like any League again. I wouldn't mind doing it, but I don't think the duo is going to happen. But we had a good run. Let's see. So now, yeah, I did the parchment. So I think I'm going to do a little bit more work on the sword, and I think for this I'm going to go back to the actual gold, the Retributive armor. Yeah. So this is like as gold can be gold, and I used a ton of this on a lot of different models, and it's a great color. So I'm going to use this basically to add little accents. Like I'm going to change this to gold. I'm going to do gold at the top of his sword here. We're going to do gold on the edges of the handle with that. Might not be different enough though. I think I might darken the handle of the sword. Very careful not to hit the white hands that we did. I think I might darken up the handles of the sword. Right. So a little bit of gold there. And oh yeah, that's right. I was gonna do I can do the cloak now. Now that I've finished all the other parts of it, now I can actually go back in there and do this. So being very careful. It's gonna hit the edges of this area.
Give yourself to the rhythm.
Thank you for the follow, person. Hellfish First. What's up? Is that the Hellfish? I had a really good friend in college. Well, he's still a friend. That went by the ID Hellfish. When we played games and things back in the day. Played Halo 1. Oh, it is you. Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, the Pringles can. Oh, man. I wonder if that still exists somewhere. I used to change the Pringles guy. Draw art on the Pringles cans. How you been, man? Hey, Halo Master Chief Collection on PC, dude. Let's get back at it. Let's get it. This part requires the utmost concentration. It's very difficult. Yeah, man. So Hellfish was our guy in our Halo group that would basically sit in the base on Blood Gulch, and he would absolutely murder anyone that dared to come in our base. Best base defender in a CTF I've ever seen. Me and another friend would like drive the Warthog out there and take things, take the flag. So I'm doing the little details on this cloak that you can see. It's very, very tough. But you see the little scrolled filigree stuff? I'm going to try to do it with gold. Lazy and efficient, yeah. Yeah, man. This was like 20 years ago now or something. It was a while ago. Next year it'll be like 20 years, I guess. Nice. Halo is old, and so am I. I'm going to add... Oh, this is going to be so tough. I'm going to try to pour this in. It's not going great. It's sometimes this filigree work, you can do it by just letting the paint pour in. Sometimes it does not work out so well. This might be one of those times. It all depends on the model and just like how good the sculpt ended up that day. But you want to get it like really, really watered down. And then try to almost like pour it into the little cracks. Very tough though. Ruined. So I'm using my hand to sort of pull some of that off. Change the filigree a little bit. Could just try to do it, just paint it in. Very, very hard to do. Also, the surface is not like super conducive to being able to do this thing easily. So I'm just kind of doing it. It's okay. It turned out okay, we'll say. Not awful. I might go back and mess with that later, but meh. Hellfish, are you still in Wisconsin? Where you at, man? And when are you coming to LA? I think I need to add another layer of Nuln Oil over this, maybe. That would probably be good over the gloves and stuff. Or maybe the contrast paint, actually. Yeah, that might be bad. Meet in Vegas in July? Maybe. I don't know what I'm doing in July yet. Living that freelance life, man. It's hard to tell. Hard to tell what you're going to be doing in a given month. I'm going to switch to Iron Hand Steel is going to be the next color here. Yeah. I'll be down. need to add a little bit more shade onto this too, for sure. How about you go to Vegas and then come to LA? Well, I also have to do the sword too. That's the next big sort of part of the project. Just kind of cleaning up this metal area real quick here. There we go. All right. Cool. That's good. Now I think I'm going to add another layer of shade. I want to do absolutely everything before I do the sword, because the sword requires some kind of like special techniques. So do everything else first. So I'm going to need a little bit more shade now. But I'm going to apply the shade in a much more sort of controlled way. I don't know, man. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Hellfish with like the freelance life. I have no idea what my schedule is going to be this year. I have zero concept, so I'll know closer to that time, I guess. I know that doesn't help, but that's all I got. Sorry. MLG figure detailing championships when? I mean, GW has Golden Demon every year. That's kind of like that. Oh yeah, that's right. I should use my thing so I don't spill. There we go. There. Now it shall not spill. And just going to use a little bit of the Nuln Oil. Some of these areas just to give a little bit more contrast to it. That's a little bit too much. All right, and kind of just going over everything that I painted with those lighter colors with this wash to kind of like darken it up, bring out some of the detail again that was lost when you put like a base coat over it again. And I just have to be careful to pull out all the extra stuff so it doesn't pool. A little bit of this is called recess shading, where I'm kind of letting it pool a little bit more, but only in like little recessed areas, hence the name, recess shading. Yeah. All right, yeah, we'll chat more later, man. I'm gonna play some games sometime too. All right, let's see. And I completely painted over the shoulders, so that means I need to completely shade over the shoulders again as well. Same with the like upper chest area. And I'm kind of, all right, let's just go over the dagger with the Nuln Oil. That's fine. go over the gloves as well. Because it'll still be white, it'll just be shaded with this darker color. And then when I go in and highlight it, you'll be able to kind of see the difference. And I'm going to go ahead and actually put some of this black shade on the white at the bottom as well. To darken it up for the purpose of then lightening it again, but in a way that creates more of an element of three-dimensionality to it. I'm going to focus my shading on the areas that sort of fold in a little bit. There. Cool. But yeah, I'm really liking how this is coming together now. I think it's starting to look pretty sick. Yeah, if you Google like Golden Demon painting competition, you should find the information about the GW one. But yeah, they do, I think, a series of them, and they do like a big one at the end of the year or something like that. It's really neat. Pretty far beyond my my abilities, but it is cool. All right, so yeah, you see the gloves that are white are still white, but now they just have some shade on the inside. And I can go in and add some more white again to bring that out again. Correct white, and there's a color called White Scar. That's just the whitest of whites. Yeah. I think I'm gonna apply this White Scar highlight with a really, really tiny brush. It's kind of chunky. That's okay though. All right, so kind of bringing out a little bit more detail again with that. Okay. Make sure I have a nice fine tip on this. What I might actually do is put a shiny varnish over the gloves to make them look like shiny white rubber gloves. hitting the edges of the robes as well. And then down here, I'm just putting it on the edges that stand out. See? There. To add that. He's got a power sword, so that's going to be the really fun effect to do. Are rubber gloves canon? Yeah, they are. I don't know. The Emperor decrees. All Crusaders must wear white rubber gloves when purging the heretics. I could definitely see OGN doing a less reality TV show. There. I'm going to do the edge of the dagger as well. Or the sheath. Scabbard, whatever you want to call it. There. It's neat. I like it. All right. Now for the parchment, what we'll do is a color, let's see, Screaming Skull maybe? Or Pallid Witch Flesh. Or Ushabti Bone. I kind of like Ushabti Bone. Yeah. Because it's more in line with the parchment type thing. Rather than white paper. Oh, see ya, Buddha Cookie. Later, man. Enjoy D&D. That's awesome. A little bit of water on the brush. And I'm kind of going to just block in
Give yourself to
the high areas here. Thank you for the follow. Genganyata. Thanks, man. Hit the edges as well here. Now I gotta be very careful. The edges of this too. Need a little bit more water. If it starts to feel like you need to push to get paint onto the surface, that means the paint is getting too dry. Pro tip. The OGN global channel, yeah, it doesn't really exist much anymore as far as I know, unfortunately. I'm sure somebody saved some of that stuff somewhere, but I don't know where it went. So doing it darker like that kind of creates more of the illusion of folded paper. All right. So I think, yeah, I really want to darken up the handle on the sword. I think I'm going to use some contrast paint to do that, actually. I'm going to use I'm going to use just black, honestly. All right, so this is just the contrast black paint. I'm just going to use it a little bit on this sword area to darken this up. So you'll still be able to see some of the metallic aspect through it, but it'll just darken up the parts where, or darken up the area, some of the areas so that you can see the gold a little bit better. So the reason I'm using the contrast paint is so that when it dries, it'll kind of like move off of those raised areas and into the recesses and darken that up a little bit, make a little bit more of a, well, a contrast without making me have to do all the work. I don't mind that. All right, thanks for the follow. Feedback gods. Appreciate it. All right, so now a little bit of tiny dry brushing with a very light red, I think is going to be the next step. So I'm just going to jump right to a very light orange, very like a red, Wild Rider red. And I'm just going to, where's the brush I was looking for? There it is. Very, very lightly dry brush those red pipes just to catch the edges of that. So I really want to get this pretty dry. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the seals here. There. So you can see now, maybe you can't, I don't know, hopefully you can see it on stream. The edges of this are coming out a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. I think you can see a little bit there. Maybe I'll add a little bit more. Because it is the details are pretty prominent. So I think I can just get in there like that. Oh yeah, I like that. That looks way better. There. Cool. Red is one of those colors that just like never wants to leave your brush. Sometimes it's kind of annoying. I'm going to use a little tiny brush to put a little tiny detail on the top of these ones as well. Let's create a bit of a starker highlight. Nice. Yeah, red is rough. What material is a brush washing pot made of and why? It's just simply plastic. That's it. It's just a cheap $8 Citadel plastic thing, and it's got grooves on the bottom, so when I rub the brush along the bottom, it helps kind of rub out some of the paint. And then I've got paper towel here to dry it. So that's it. Pretty simple setup. I think I'm going to add a little bit of Stormhost Silver. Actually, I need to go in and fix something. Unfortunately, I got a little bit of red on some of the copper, so I need to fix that real quick. Right here, see? There. Fixed. All right, so now I'm gonna go in and use a bit of Stormhost Silver. This is a very, very, very bright silver here that I'm gonna use to accent a lot of the metal. And then we can move on to the power sword. But a lot of the parts of this guy are nearly done. Getting very close. Just the brightest of silvers, as you can see. And the first thing I'm going to do is there's tiny little lenses right here. I'm going to paint those silver because I'm going to go over them with a color, and I want the color to stand out. There. And so the other stuff, let's see. Just accenting different lines on the metal. This is a fun part too because it just kind of brings out the contrast a little bit more. I'm even putting some of it over the copper filigree as well. I'm going to put some down here on the bottom too, because there's this design that I'm trying to get to stand out. Well, I can see it now. There it is. All right, cool. A little bit more silver on the brush. It's kind of hitting some of those edges and highlights and making them stand out a little bit more. Like the bottom of his mask, for instance. Or like the little edges on his chest here. And all of this is like really subtle, but it really brings the model together. In like a really cool way. Yeah, this stuff is always fun. And unfortunately, it's probably one of the ones you can't see very well. I gotta stop doing metal models on the stream. models with metallic paint jobs. So it's tough to kind of grasp some of the detail. Sometimes. And then a little bit of that on this as well. Even over some of the details that I've already done with the other metal colors, because this really makes everything stand out. And putting a bright silver over a gold or something like that actually enhances the gold. It just makes the gold look shiny. It doesn't really change the color to the eye. So it's a neat little trick you can do to kind of bring out the metallic aspect of it a little bit more. Yep. Am I picky enough to have a favorite brand or brush? No, not at all. No. I just use generally Citadel brushes because they're there at the shop when I'm at the shop, and that's convenient for me to get them. Again, I'm sure there are like better brushes out there, but I like supporting my shop, you know. They give me a place to hang out and enjoy this hobby, and so I guess I'm willing to pay a little bit more than I might need to for another brush and all that, because I'm kind of paying for getting to enjoy that community and enjoy that space as well. At least that's how I think of it anyway. And like, where everything is moving online, it's cool to have like a place to go and engage in the hobby that you're interested in with other like-minded people. So I don't want that to go away, Doing some random little details here. More little random highlights. All right, and do a little bit of dry brushing on the sword there. That would be good. Yeah, dude, seriously, like the local Warhammer shop that I go to is seriously like the Cheers of nerds. It is seriously like the place where everybody knows your name. It's great. And like some of them know me from esports, but a lot of them I'm just, another Warhammer guy. Which is nice. All right, I'm really happy with how this guy looks. He looks so cool. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, this is specifically for a Adeptus Sororitas kill team that I'm doing. So he's going to be played in a kill team mostly. I could do a lot of details to the back of the shield and all that, but you just don't see it, so I'm not going to worry about it too much, I think. Now, for the sword. So the sword, the power sword effect is really interesting. And I'll try to find an example of what I'll do. Or no, actually, I'm not going to show you an example. I'm just going to do it. So the first thing I need is, believe it or not, I need a blue. A darker blue. I think I'm going to choose Cantor blue. I think that's a good one to start with. Yeah, his rules for kill team are insane, man. Like, I was thinking about making a sister's kill team, but I'm like, I don't have a lot of options. And then I was looking at the Blackstone Fortress guys, and I'm like, Oh my gosh, this guy he's not a commander and he's got all that. It's crazy. So I've got him and I've got Pius Vorn that is going into the kill team as well. Because then I get to have 2 flamers and an amazing melee guy. And I still get to have the Sister Repentia as well. So it should be a pretty sick kill team. Should be fun. Yeah, the free combat specialist is amazing. He's great. He is great. All right. And I'm going to paint some great Cantor blue on this sword now. I have a reputation to uphold now with Kill Team because I won our last Kill Team league in the store. I went undefeated in 5 weeks of league play and undefeated in the tournament at the end of it. I tied 1 game during the tournament, and that's the closest I ever came to losing. Which, I'm never going to do that again, but that was fun. So, painting the blade blue, because we're going to do the power sword. Yeah, good luck at work, man. Have fun. Be good, dude. Alright, so painting the blue on the sword. And we're going to go for the power sword effect, which is sort of this energy blade kind of thing. Not like a lightsaber, but more like a metal blade that is infused with coursing energy. I've done a couple of these, and they've been really fun. But they're always really stressful to do, too, because they are... It is tough. It's definitely one of the tougher effects. And it takes a while. It's a bit time-consuming. But it'll be worth it in the end. Alright, so there is that. Blue on the sword. Oh, that's cool. Magikarpussid fly? Alright. Yeah, and I mean, you don't really need to be like a lore expert to enjoy the game anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Anyway, I'm gonna let this dry a little bit. I kind of feel like I need to put like a little bit more Nuln Oil on this sword here. It's a little bit too bright for me, for my liking. Yeah, I like that a lot better. I mean, come on, the future's supposed to be grimdark, all right? There, that looks much better. Magic card used fly. Okay. Magikarp. Okay, that's makes more sense. Yeah. Magikarp used fly. Right. Okay. So let's see. This blue is pretty much dry. So here's what you need to do to make a power sword. You need to get white scar, very white, and you need to do some water. You need to, I think I'm going to just do it with the base brush. Yeah, I think that'd be easiest. So get a bit of white scar. Shake it up so it's nice and mixed. Good amount of that. And a lot of water, because essentially what we're going to be doing is layers of... we're going to be building up layers of white. Starting from the outside of the blade, the edge of the blade, going in. So that's going to be like this. And what I'm going to do is go through it. I think I'm going to switch to a different brush because this base brush kind of sucks. Actually, I'm going to need to put some blue over that again. Yeah, that brush totally messed that up. Never mind. Take 2. There. All right. So going to add a little bit of blue into this as well. A little bit of blue. Forgot to do that. Now we're going to start from the edge. There we go. I knew I forgot something. This brush just sucks. All right, that's it. Check out this base brush is just absolutely messed up. So we're done. Different brush. I'm gonna use this glaze brush instead. And if the color is not totally even, that's actually okay. Because remember, you're kind of creating an effect where the energy is sort of like moving around the blade a little bit, you know? And you want to do it to both sides.
Give yourself to the rhythm.
Thank you for the follow. Who was? Marvin F8. Thanks, man. Back of the sword, I'm not going to worry as much about, because you're not going to see that very much. And then, so basically, now I'm going to add a little bit more white, a little bit of water. I want to try to make a lighter version of this color. And now I'm going to put that on the side. I haven't done one of these in about a year, a little over a year maybe. So I'm a little bit out of practice. But the idea is to sort of build up layers of color from the outside of the blade in. Not get it on the cloak. There we go. And I'm just gonna add, it's like really, really watery. If you could see this, it's like a glaze kind of. But you want to do this a bunch of times, letting it dry a little bit, and then putting more on. And then eventually, you're going to add a really like white line, a little bit more whiter of the line. There, thanks for the follow, Suzuki. All right, I'm gonna do this pretty much just on the edge. Of the blade. So there's still some blue in here, but there's also more white than before. So you can see it's starting to kind of build up like that. What I might do is do a little bit of a blue wash, a bit of a watery blue glaze down the middle again, to kind of even it out a little bit. make the edge, you know, a little bit softer. There we go. Looking good. So you kind of alternate like that. Blue and then lighter blue. If you need to, go in and add a darker blue. Just kind of build up layers of color like that. Yeah. All right, so now I want to go back to my lighter one. This is like one of the most painterly things you kind of do sometimes with this. Because you're really building up layers and stuff. It's hard to see. It's hard to see, but on my side of things, slowly building up these layers of light blue to dark blue, going from the outside of the blade into the inside of the blade. And it will look super cool when it's done. Going back to a little bit more darker blue on the back, because this one got a little bit away from me, but it's looking okay. The back of the blade is harder because it's just got stuff there. So anyway, so now you can see you've got sort of that like soft light edge going to blue in the middle. See what I mean? That's what you're looking for. And so then what you do is now we need to actually go back to Stormhost Silver. Where is it? There it is. And there's little like kind of like electric nodes basically on these power swords that you have to sort of hit with the silver to bring them out. There. A little bit of silver on the brush, get a really fine point. Then if I can just hit these. Very, very soft touch. They're raised from the surface of the blade. So even if you can't see them, if you know about where they are and do kind of a soft touch like I'm doing, you can pick them out and get a really like clean line. See? Like that. How many hours of work? Well, let's see. This guy was completely unpainted when we started around 5. So that kind of should answer your question. 5 Pacific. There. So what time is it now? It's 8. So this is like around 3 hours, I guess. And this is more time, yeah, this is more time than you really need to put into a model if you want to. But I really want this guy to look good. I'm going to go back and I'm going to add like a little bit of darker blue in the center of this to make the lightning stuff stand out more. There. All right. And now I need a special white scar, which is White Scar Air. I'll see if I can find it here. It's got it around somewhere. I've got it around somewhere. I don't know where it is exactly because I'm super disorganized. Maybe it's in here. Or actually, I can just use regular White Scar and just water it down. That's what I'm going to do instead. Yeah. Might need to do a little bit more detail on top of the sleeves here. Yeah, I'll go and do that later. For now, though, the power sword. So, the question is, do I have a brush that's up to the challenge? So going pure white for this. I want a pretty solid line. This is where you really need to get artistic here. Is you have to freehand it actually. So if you keep in mind that the electricity is coming off of the diodes, you can kind of do these little bolts, like little crackles down the blade. And as soon as your brush starts to get a little bit dry, get some water on it, get some water on that tip, get some more paint on it, because you want this to be really, really fine. You don't have to press at all. So you're doing these little sort of crackles and bolts of energy, basically. There we go. And you don't want to overdo it, you know? So when you feel like you're done, just be done, you know? So there you go, like that. I'm going to do the same thing for the back. It's one of those things where it's intimidating to try. You just sort of have to dive in, you know? There. All right. And then, as a final touch, you want to do like a little bit of white on the very, very tip, where the energy reaches its zenith. There. And then go along the sides. And not along the whole side, but just along some of it. Put some of that really, really blast white scar on there too. And that'll make it look like some areas have like more energy pulsating down them than others. You know? And it'll look really sick. There. The back is, usually I'm a little bit lazier on the back of the blade. It looks okay, but it's not as good at the front. But the front looks pretty awesome. Yeah. And if you want, you can even go in and add like really, really, really fine details to some of the lightning strikes that are already there. Hey, thanks for the raid, man. Welcome, everybody. There. So I really don't want to mess with this that much, but I'm just kind of lightening some of the lines. There. But yeah, that's so there's your power sword. Looks okay. And I'm pretty psyched about this model. I'm gonna do a little bit more. Whoops, highlighting with the Fenrisian Gray up on top, but this guy is getting pretty close to being done. I just saw a part on the like cloak that I wanted to change a little bit. I wanted to add just a few more subtle little lines of detail here. Almost like dry brushing, but not quite. Oh, and I need to go in and hit these edges with the Stormhost Silver as well. I'm seeing. To bring out some of like the little sort of little bolts and things like that are on there. Yeah. Doa solo cast. Yeah, a moment that will live in infamy. For sure. It was a good time. Never again, though. Alright. So, I'm gonna hit some of these little details here. So, you got these little, like, buttons and stuff. On the edge of the cloak. And kind of messed that one up a little bit, but that's okay. It's not in a place you would see it a whole lot, so. Adding a few more details here. And I guess I can do it over here too. There. Not bad. Oh yeah, I need to do the eyes as well. I think I'm going to give him like a green lens for the eye. I think that'd be cool. So for green, I'm going to use a contrast paint. I'm just going to use Warp Lightning, which is a very bright green. Or instead of Warp Lightning, I think I'm actually going to go back for the technical paint route. And is this it? Yes, Waystone Green. Okay, so this is a technical paint. It's naturally glossy, and it creates sort of a gem effect. So I'm going to apply a little bit of that. It'll look neat. I'm going to do one first here. A little bit more of that paint on there. And I'm going to do it on the lens here. And so this will create sort of a shiny lens effect, basically. When you're applying these paints, you want to bring them from the bottom up. Because they're kind of gel-like in a way. So that'll help them settle a little bit better. There. So cool, like green eye there. Nice. I like it.
Give yourself to the rhythm.
Yeah, thanks for the follow. Yeah, I probably am going to build a Sisters army after Kill Team. That's the plan. I've got some models and building them. Here's my Canoness. So yeah, it will become a 40k army eventually. How quickly I'm going to get that done, who knows? It could be centuries. But for now, I'm going to do the Kill Team, and this is the first fully painted member of the Kill Team, and he's not a Sister of Battle technically, but he can be run in the Sisters of Battle Kill Team, so close enough. Gotret de Montbard, I think his name is. But yeah, I'm gonna turn the light off and get like a little bit better view, maybe. Power Sword looks great. Shield looks pretty cool. Although I kind of want to add gold in the middle of that shield now, honestly. Yeah, Cloak is Cloak-y. Yep. I kind of feel like this should be like bright gold in the middle of the shield. I think I'm going to add that, actually. Yeah, I think he's like a no-brainer to include for Kill Team, honestly. Like his rules are just so good. Like I don't know how you could do a Sisters Kill Team and not include him, honestly. Because with Sisters of Battle, you kind of lack good melee as well, and he brings that like in spades. Make this gold. Oh no. I'll shade it again anyway, so it's not a huge deal. All right. Yeah, I like that better overall. That's good. I'll just run some shade over that real quick. Thanks. Militarum, I've never played against a Militarum kill team, actually. Hopefully I will get a chance at some point. Anyway, Null Oil time again. The kill teams I've played have been Deathwatch and, in tournaments anyway, or leagues rather, have been Deathwatch and Chaos Demons. I did a unit of Bloodletters as a contest paint experiment, or a contrast paint rather experiment, on this channel even. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to play these guys in my Kill Team League. And then they ended up being ridiculously OP and I felt bad. I was like, it's not what I just wanted to contrast paint some Bloodletters, that's all. There we go. That's nice. Adam Savage of Esports. Oh, that is a great compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna follow generally that palette. I've got a test model Battle Sister that I've done. She's not a finished model at all, but I kind of just blocked in the color scheme. So I'm gonna go Valorous Heart, more or less. But I did the armor Grey Knight Steel, and then I put like 4 layers of 1-to-1, 2-to-1 like contrast paint and black contrast paint over it. So to essentially kind of make it, it's hard to see on stream, but it looks black on the table, but if you hold it up, it's like this very dark metal, because the metallic kind of shines through the layers of contrast paint. So it's kind of my take on Valorous Heart, sort of. But it's not done yet. Like I haven't done the gloves, I haven't done the back of the model, obviously. So this is just me blocking in the colors to see what the scheme would look like. But I think this is kind of what I'm going to follow for it. Pretty much. That's the general plan. But yeah, I think this guy is about done. Might add a few finishing touches later on, but and I have to do the base, of course, as well. But yeah, I'm pretty psyched about this. Pretty happy with how this turned out. And so I think I'm going to end the stream there. So thanks for watching, guys. Sorry for those of you who just tuned in. It's been a 3.5-hour journey taking this guy from primed plastic to the state he's in right now, but I'm pretty happy with the results, and I'm pretty excited to play this kill team. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to grab my mouse so I can turn the stream off naturally. Use my wireless mouse, necessary for any streaming kind of thing. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next stream soon. I think I'm going to be joining in maybe some League of Legends streaming in the next couple days, so keep an eye on the social media for that. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to post a picture of this guy on Instagram later so you can see the finished product, and that's where I post a lot of my Warhammer stuff anyway, so keep an eye on that, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. See you next time.